Hello. Yeah, just wanted to make a new video, and this is not going to be like the regular gaming videos that I usually do. Because actually, I just kind of decided that this channel is going to be whatever I want it to be, and it's just going to be whatever comes into my mind and whatever I want to talk about. And this is what the channel is going to be about. And yeah, I wanted to share a little bit about myself and what I do and the things that I think about, and I want to get you guys' input on what you guys think. So I think in the recent like 3 years, I've kind of been seeing like our economy. I mean, not my economy in person, but just kind of like the state of Europe in general, and especially like the businesses that I work with, the video game business. It's I mean, it's no secret that it is kind of collapsing. And I think there's many different factors. You had COVID, where there was a lot of people that start to play games. So of course the companies start to invest in more staff and developing more games and so forth. So you know as soon as COVID ended, it's not sustainable, right? So you have I think there's a lot to blame there. But then on the other hand, I also think that I think it's just people are getting tired of all of these super grindy games. And I think also there's a lot of quality games coming from Asia, especially from countries like China and even like smaller countries like Thailand and Indonesia. They're also, starting to make games that look pretty good. So there's competition everywhere, competition in places that didn't exist before. And then, of course, the market is still growing, but I just feel like there's just way too many games coming out and way too many quality games in general. So I kind of feel like, wow, the market is really bad right now. And that's just not about video games, but it's like anything that is tech, right? Because looking around, all these companies like Facebook and Google, etc., they're all firing people in the tens of thousands. I mean, that's the amount of people that live in smaller cities. So it's quite insane numbers when you think about it. So I've been thinking about like how can I kind of counter the future, uh, and it also kind of feels like there's war looming with the whole Russia thing, and NATO is constantly saying things like, "Oh, there might be a war, but get ready." And I mean, I live in Sweden, so maybe nothing will ever happen here, but you just never know, right? So I'm just thinking, how can I de-risk my living? So actually, the first thing that I've done now, the first step, and this is actually already done, is that I sold my apartment. So I have a pretty expensive apartment. It cost something like 4.2 million, and I had a little bit more than half of that in debt, so money that I borrowed to be able to afford to buy the place. And I just feel like with the rates and how they've been going in this roller coaster pattern, I don't want to have I don't want to have a lot of debt when things are so uncertain in the world, and the you know the how do you say it, the rate of the loans, they can just go up and down as wildly as they can, which I've actually experienced in these last 4 and 5 years that I've owned this apartment. When I bought it, it was really cheap, and then when my loans time ended, the how do you say, the binding time, the rate was actually extremely high. So there was a few months actually where I was going minus on having this place, and then gradually it's become better and better, and now it's actually at a pretty decent price. Not as good as it was in the beginning, but it's still pretty okay. But just looking at what's going on, I feel like I don't think the good times are coming back, especially not considering that you have AI as well that is getting so good these days. And I really think that AI is going to replace a lot of jobs, especially once robotics start to materialize and are actually useful. And that still feels like it's kind of far away, but it's like 5 years. Is it 10 years? Like who knows, right? So so yeah, I sold my apartment, and right now I'm going to go to find a cheaper apartment, basically one that I hopefully can, pay off directly, meaning no loans or anything like that. I think that really will de-risk myself, and of course that also comes with risks because if the housing market crashes, then my investment will be potentially decreased, right? But at the same time, if I own it and I can afford to own it for a longer duration, maybe it's not such a huge risk because there's no rates that can go up and down. It's just more about like if I would like to sell it, maybe I couldn't sell it at a good price at that point. And honestly, when I'm looking thinking about the housing market in general, I think you also have the thing with the population decline that's going on. Like for example, if you look at Japan, that's a really good indicator of where things are going once things get bad and you start to lose your population because there's such a low birth rate. And it's happening pretty much everywhere in pretty much every single developed country. And it feels like we're just a few years away from that. So, if there's no market for buying houses because there's less kids that need houses, then, it's going to collapse. And you see it in Japan, like small villages, they're just kind of like being abandoned and they're almost paying you to take a house to take care of it. I mean, that's insane. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't know, anything can happen, but yeah, it definitely feels like everything is kind of like heading in that direction. And also, if you do have AI robotics and they can build houses with robots, that's one massively going to decrease the time it takes to build a house because the robots can just go 24/7. It will probably also improve the quality because the robots can just do it everything, in a proper manner. There is less error for human error, right? And I think in some cases where it's kind of like a robotic job, I do think the machines are probably better than humans on doing stuff like that. And I think that will massively, one, decrease prices of buildings because it's just so much cheaper to build, and two, you can just build them so much faster because you can just put more robots onto it, right? Then it can just go faster and faster and faster. And you've seen this like in China, for example, where they don't have as stricter labor laws as we do here, and I think the costs are a little bit cheaper. I mean, they can throw up a skyscraper in 2 or 3 weeks, right? Well, over here, just building a smaller building, like a 4 or 5 story building, it can take a year or two. So I think, yeah, I think the housing market is, due to all these reasons, I think it's kind of like collapsing. So it will be interesting to see. So I did get out of my apartment at actually the same price that I bought it at. So it wasn't, I didn't make any money on it, but I did enjoy living here, and it's a really beautiful apartment. I really loved it. But yeah, I had to de-risk, so that is done. And now I'm thinking about like how can I de-risk my life further? Like what can I do? And I do have some ideas, and but this was the first idea that I want to share with you, and I would love to hear your thoughts about things that you're thinking about topics like this. How are you prepared for any like mega crashes? Because I think there is a big crash looming, which is the market with all these AI investments, which same as it was with the internet back in I think 2000 and no 1998 I think it was. Yeah, when everybody was going to make web pages and sell all kinds of stuff, and the internet just wasn't ready yet in terms of speed and in terms of technology, and all that pretty much crashed. And you had a few winners. You had like you had I think Google was starting up at that point, and there's still a few companies around from that era, but there were so many losers, right? So that really took down the market. So I think this is pretty much going to be a repeat of that scenario because right now you have so many companies that are investing in AI and doing this and that and this and that. But at the end of the day, we all know that there's only going to be a few players on the market that are going to be able to do all this stuff in a coherent and great way. So yeah, I think that was it. Let me know what you guys think. Looking forward to reading your comments, and Let's talk again in the next one. Adios.